Hello everyone, welcome to J-Hook Crochet. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make these beautiful slipper socks. I designed these as part of the Ice Yarns Designer program, and if you want a written version of this pattern, then I will link it in the description box below this video once it is published on the Ice Yarns blog. So if you're watching this video and the link is not yet in the description box below, that means it was not yet published, but it is due published in the next few days after I release this video. So just be sure to come back to the video and follow the link, and then you can get your written version of this pattern as well. But if you prefer visual learning, or if you are following the written pattern and just need a little bit of help, so this video is for you. So let's move on and see what you need in order to make these beautiful slippers. For this project, I am using Ice Yarns Galaxy. It is a super bulky 6 yarn, but you can also use a bulky 5 for this project and you will get about the same results. This yarn is exactly the same as the Lion brand Boing yarn, so if you have some of that, you can use that as well. And you will also need an 8mm crochet hook, a stitch marker, and a darning needle to weave in your ends and sew your heel. So get your materials together and let's begin. We begin with a chain of 6 and we're going to put 2 single crochets into the second chain from the hook. So this is one chain, this is the second one, and we're going to put 2 single crochets in there. Now we're going to put 1 single crochet into each of the next 3 chains. At this point, we only have 1 chain left in our beginning chain, and we're going to put 3 single crochets into that one. So 3 single crochets all into the same chain. Now we're going to take our work and turn it 180 degrees so we can continue working into our initial chain from the other side. And we're going to put 1 single crochet into each of the next 3 chains. We're actually working into the same chains we worked before, only from the other side. And to end the first row, we're going to put 1 more single crochet into the very first chain, the one we already put 2 single crochets into in the beginning of the row. So 1 more single crochet in there, and that is the end of row 1. Now this part of our project is worked in a spiral. So in order to keep track on where your row begin and end, you would want to use 1 stitch marker. To begin the next row, we're going to put 1 single crochet into the next single crochet, and this will be the first single crochet of the round. So I'm going to mark it with my stitch marker. Into the next single crochet, we're going to put 3 single crochets. Now we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Into the next stitch, we're going to put 3 single crochets, all in the same stitch. One single crochet in the next stitch, and into the next stitch, once again, 3 single crochets. 1 single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and into the last stitch of the round we're going to put 3 single crochets. Here is what our work looks like at the end of round 2. To begin the next round, we're going to move our stitch marker again, put 1 single crochet into the first single crochet, and place our stitch marker in that first stitch. Now we're going to put 1 single crochet into the next stitch, 3 single crochets into the next stitch, one single crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. Into the next stitch, once again, 3 single crochets. One single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. Into the next stitch, we will make our corner again, 3 single crochets all into 1 stitch. One single crochet into each of the next 5 stitches, 3 single crochets into the next stitch, and we end our round with 1 single crochet in the last stitch of the round. And this is what our work looks like in the end of round 3. Now it looks a little bit square, but that will even out as we continue our work and become more round and sock-like. So these are the first 3 rows of our work, and they are actually the toe of our slipper. Now we're going to start working on the foot. And in order to work on the foot, we're just going to work 1 single crochet in every stitch, going around in spirals until our work is long enough. Now I will show you on the other slipper that I have already finished what I mean. So when we look at our slipper, this is the toe, this is the part we just worked, and this is the foot, this is the part we're going to work now, and this is the heel. So we're going to work on this part here, the long part, and it needs to be long enough so it goes from our toes until the back of our arch in our foot, which is where we're going to start working on the heel. So just continue working, putting 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around, always moving the stitch marker to show you where the first stitch of the row is, but not chaining up between rows. Just going around putting 1 single crochet in each stitch in a very long spiral. And it's very important that you use the stitch marker to always know where the row begins and ends. That way you can write down how many rows you made in order to finish your foot. And the reason it's important is because we're making 2 slippers and we want both of them to be the same length. Come back to the video when that part is done and I will show you how to continue. This is what my work looks like after I finished working the rows of 1 single crochet in every stitch around. I tried it on and it is the right length, and it is time for me to begin the heel. So when your work looks the same and it is time for you to begin the heel, this is what we do to continue. First of all, we're going to lay our work flat, and the way we do it is along the line of our initial chain. So we're going to flatten our work like this. One side of this will be the top and the other side will be the bottom of the slipper sock. And before we begin working on the heel, we have to make sure that the first stitch of the heel is here along the side of the fold so that our heel will line up with our work. Now, if your stitch marker of the first stitch of the row does not line up with the side fold that we just made, then you might want to continue working just a few more stitches so that the beginning of your heel rows will line up perfectly with your slipper sock. So I ended up working 2 more single crochets in order to have my work lined up correctly. And now it is time to start the heel, and this is how we do it. To work the heel, we're going to work rows of single crochet back and forth along only one side of our work. The way we do it is we begin the first row with 15 single crochet. So we're going to work only 15 single crochets, 1 in each stitch, along one side of the work. So 1, 2, and continue this way until you have 15. I just finished working single crochet number 15, and I'm going to chain 1 and turn. For our heel, the chain ones in the beginning of the row never count as a stitch, and we're going to work those 15 stitches again. So I'm going to continue with putting 1 single crochet into that first single crochet, because as I've said, the first chain 1 does not count as a stitch. And once again, I'm going to work my 15 stitches. So this was 2, 3, and continue this way until you have 15. So I'm working stitch number 15. And once again, I'm going to chain 1 and turn. And I'm going to keep working rows of these 15 stitches back and forth until my heel is the size I want it to be. And in order to explain what does that mean, I'm going to take the slipper that I already finished and show you my heel. So these are the rows that we are working now. These are the back and forth rows of 15 single crochets. We are actually working them this way now. When our slipper sock is laid flat, we are working these rows like that. And later on, when we fold our slipper sock the right way, this is what we will get. Half of the rows are on this side and the other half is on the other side. So now we're actually holding our work this way to work our rows of 15 single crochets. But in order to know if our heel is long enough, we have to fold them the other way and see if they already cover until the back of our heel. So continue working your rows of single crochets back and forth along those 15 stitches until it's long enough to cover your heel. And once it's long enough to cover your heel, then come back to the video and I'll show you how to continue. I finished working my heel rows, and now what we're going to do is we're going to fold our work the other way like this. And now you can see the shape of our slipper sock. This is the toe and this is the heel. And what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch into the beginning of the row we just finished working. So this is the row I just finished working, and when I fold my work like this, I'm going to slip stitch here into the first stitch of the row. By slip stitching into the first stitch, I closed the heel, and now we will continue working the leg. The leg is this part of the sock. So we started by working our toe, then we did the foot, now we did the rows of the heel, and we closed our work again, and now we can start working along these lines to make the leg. We will continue by chaining 1 and then making 1 single crochet into the same place where we just made a slip stitch into, and now we will work 1 single crochet along the side of the rows that we just worked. So each row that we worked will be 1 single crochet. So we just did one single crochet on the side of this last row that we just worked, and we're going to put one single crochet along the side of each row. After we worked one single crochet into the side of each of the heel rows, we are going to work one single crochet into each of those stitches that we did not work. We left those stitches when we were working our heel, and now we're going to put one single crochet into each of these stitches. I finished working one single crochet into each one of those stitches, and now I'm at the other side again, and once again I'm going to put one single crochet on the side of each one of those heel rows. At the end of the row, we're going to slip stitch back into the first stitch that we made. And this ends the first row of our leg. To begin the next row of the leg, we are going to chain one, and that chain one does not count as a stitch and will not count as a stitch for the remaining of our work. We're going to work one single crochet back into the same stitch, and now we're going to put one single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. Over the next 2 stitches, we're going to do a decrease. So we're going to go into the first stitch, pick up a loop, go into the next stitch, pick up a loop, and then finish both of them together. That is a single crochet decrease. And now we're going to continue putting one single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches, and then doing a decrease over the 5th and 6th stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 single crochets, and over the next 2 stitches we're going to do a decrease again. So go into the first stitch, pick up a loop, go into the second stitch, pick up a loop, and then finish both of them together. And we're going to continue this way all the way around. 4 single crochet, decrease, 4 single crochet, decrease, 4 single crochet, decrease, until you get to the end of your row. At the end of your row, if you have a few extra stitches, just put one single crochet into each of those stitches, and I will meet you at the end of the row. At the end of the row, I'm going to slip stitch into the first stitch to close the row. And now we're going to chain one, and we're going to do 3 rows of single crochet. So at the beginning of the row, we always chain 1, and we work a single crochet back into the same stitch. Then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch along the row, and at the end of the row, we're going to slip stitch into the first stitch again. Then for the next row, chain 1 and do the same again. So do 3 rows of what I just described and come back to the video to see how to continue. I finished working 3 rows of 1 single crochet in each stitch, and now we're going to move on to the next step. So I already slip stitched back into the first stitch of the row, and we're going to chain 1, and this chain 1 does not count as a stitch, and we are going to skip this first stitch that we just came out of, and we're going to put 1 double crochet into the next stitch. Like that. Now we're going to go back and work a double crochet into that first stitch that we did not work into. So we're going to yarn over and go back into that stitch and work a double crochet. This created sort of an X form, and we're going to continue doing that all the way around. So we skip one stitch, we work one double crochet into the next stitch, and then we go back and work one double crochet into the skipped stitch. Once again, skip one stitch, double crochet into the next stitch, and then go back and one double crochet into your skipped stitch. And as you can see, this creates this X pattern all the way around. So continue doing that all the way around for the remaining of the row. And at the end of the row, we're going to slip stitch back into the first stitch that we worked. Because each of us has a different size heel and each of us worked a different number of heel rows, it may be that at the end of this row you will have one extra stitch. If you do end up having one extra stitch at the end of the row, just skip that one and slip stitch back into the first stitch of the row. So continue doing this all the way around and I will meet you at the end of the row and I'll show you how we continue. So I finished my rows of crossed double crochet and this is what my slipper sock looks so far. And now to continue, we are going to chain one and put one single crochet into each one of the stitches. So we begin with the first stitch that we just chained one out of, and we're going to put one single crochet into each one of the stitches all the way around. And we're going to do that for 2 rows. So at the end of the row, just as we did before, we're going to slip stitch into the first stitch, chain one, and work another row just like it. So 2 rows of one single crochet into each one of the stitches. So do that and then come back to the video and I'll show you how to continue. I finished working my 2 rows of one single crochet in each stitch, and what we're going to do for the remaining of the leg is just repeat those last 3 rows. So 1 row of the X pattern with the double crochets, and then 2 rows of single crochet, 1 in each stitch. And we continue doing this until our slipper sock is the length that we want it to be. I am making mine to match the other one that I made, so I'm going to repeat 3 times just like in the first one I made. But you might want yours to be longer, maybe you want it knee-high. So you just continue working those 3 rows until it's the length you want it to be. At the end, when you have the length that you want, you just slip stitch back into the first stitch and then you clip your yarn and hide your tails. And then all you have to do is sew the heel together, so you won't have this opening here at the back. And the way we sew that is we flip our sock inside out and just use a darning needle and some of the leftover yarn, and we sew both parts together. And obviously once you finish your slipper, you make the second one exactly the same way to match. That's it! So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and I hope that you found it useful, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. And I invite you all to join my Facebook group, which will be linked in the description box below. There you can share with me different things that you made using my tutorials. Also, you can follow me on Instagram, also linked in the description box below, and you can tag me on Instagram in different things that you make with my patterns. So thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!